so happy. Things are going so well in Mar-a-Lago that I want to focus on that, but I want to begin. If you combine the projected winners from Decision Desk and the projected winners from the New York Times, the Republicans are at 220 seats. Seems likely they'll get to 222. They might get to 224. So it's a Republican sweep on Tuesday, which means that the budget and the reconciliation process can begin, and a number of laws can be passed pursuant to the reconciliation process. I'll explain that a little bit later in the program. And it means the Congressional Reform Act can be passed to do away with any regulation Team Biden managed to pass in the last 6 months. A great thing. They got to move fast on the CRAs. They got to move fast on the budget and reconciliation. Now the appointments. 5 are known. And then the 6 is Senator Rubio, which is leaked, but which would be a great appointment, but it's been leaked in the New York Times. 3 sources have told the New York Times Senator Rubio will be the Secretary of State, and that would be a fabulous choice. Senator Rubio is a very, very eloquent proponent of the West. And he can tell you in English and he can tell you in Spanish. He can speak directly to the dictators of Venezuela and Cuba and Nicaragua. He can talk to the crazy socialists in Brazil and Peru and Ecuador. He can encourage Milei in Argentina. He can go to NATO. He is a great exponent, if it's true. Now, that's the one I'm not sure about. I am sure about Congressman Waltz is going to be the National Security Advisor. And the Green Beret turned congressman is an extraordinary warrior diplomat. His first book, Warrior Diplomat, is about that. He has served at the National Security Council. He has served in the Department of Defense. And he's been shot at and shot people in Afghanistan and Africa and around the world. I know him well. Member of the Nixon seminar. My son has worked for him since the first Trump administration went away, and my son was in that. And now he went right to Congressman Waltz's office, so I'll tell you that going forward. I'm never going to bring it up again because I'm tired of putting the disclosure out there. I've said it like 1,000 times. Whether or not that was the case, Michael Waltz is a great, great choice. And my hat is off to Donald Trump for recognizing what he needs in that job, which is a wearying, frantic, extraordinary job, which is someone who's absolutely loyal, absolutely reliable, absolutely leak-proof, not interested in currying favor with the press. Now, we already knew that the chief of staff was Susie Wiles. I do not know Ms. Wiles. I've spoken to her once. Everybody I know says she's terrific. I also know that Stephen Miller is going back. I've spoken once with Stephen Miller. I think he's an excellent choice for domestic policy. It used to be what Roger Porter did in the Reagan White House. And the deliverable that Donald Trump must get is a secure border and the deportation of criminals and other people who deserve to go. It is possible to be a border hawk and an immigration regularization dove. That's what I am. I'll write about it next week. Stephen Miller is a border hawk to end all border hawks, and I'm glad about it. When he talks about the cartels, he talks passionately about the abuse of children, and you need to think about that. This is not about shutting the door to you're poor, you're halt, you're blind, you're lame. It's about stopping the cartels from raping young women and turning young children into sex slaves in the United States. It's about keeping criminals out of our country. It's about getting the terrorists on the terrorist watch list rounded up. It's about finding the 50,000 Chinese military-age male who came in the last year. It's about getting the wall built. I've been calling for the wall since 2004, and maybe a fence behind it and a fence behind that, and tunnel detecting technology and a vastly improved and expanded border patrol, because borders matter to national security. Michael Waltz and, if it's true, Marco Rubio and whoever is the SecDef can work on the rebuild for peace through strength. But Donald Trump is off to a terrific start. Lee Zeldin, the very able former congressman from New York who ran for governor and almost won, will know how to run the Environmental Protection Agency. I know the EPA pretty well. Knew Scott Pruitt, knew Andrew Wheeler, both good men, did great things. It is an agency that needs to be dismantled in motion and combined with some other agency. They are killing growth in the United States. They do not have the writ that they think they do. They are run by bureaucrats unless a strong hand is at the top. I don't know Congressman Zeldin at all. These are not like my buddies are getting. I know Waltz, and that's about it. No, Senator Rubio's been a guest 1,000 times. Ditto Congressman Waltz. Not Lee Zeldin. not Stephen Miller, not Susie Wiles. I'm just here to tell you the last one, Elise Stefanik, is as exciting as the first five. Congresswoman Stefanik, 40 years old, is a wonderfully competent and eloquent spokesperson for the West, as is Congressman Waltz, as is Senator Rubio. When I say spokesperson for the West, that doesn't mean foreign adventure. It means standing up for the ongoing expansion of liberty and literacy around the world. It means taking care of our allies and punishing our friends. It means making sure that American troops are not in harm's way, and if you harm an American troop, you'll pay a price. It means you take our hostages, you will pay a price. It means don't start wars. Do not start them. We will help end them if you start them. And if you are violating the law of war, if you're Assad or anybody, Donald Trump is not your friend. That's why Assad got battered, if you recall. Obama gave it away, the red line. Donald Trump restored it. Joe Biden gave it away again in the appeasement of the past 4 years, and Donald Trump will restore it. He's already restoring it. Did you notice the Houthis declared a ceasefire after Donald Trump won? Suddenly our sailors are not under rocket bombardment every day. The word is, reports are, both in Israel and the United States, that the president-elect has talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu 3 times. That's very good. Our allies know we have their back again. We're not going to be cutting off weapons to Israel. I'm sure he's also saying, Bibi, get it done, because that's what he has told me 3 times on this show. He needs to win fast. And by winning fast, he has won in Gaza. Hamas is a shadow, piecemeal, cracked mirror. But that still means a couple of thousand of terrorists with guns who can kill civilians and IDF soldiers. The conclusion of that operation, the withdrawal of Israel, is at least a year away. And the United States will have to lead in the reconstruction with our Sunni Gulf Arabs in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and to the extent that they're involved at all, Qatar. Qatar has told Hamas, get out. Good for Qatar. It is time for Hamas to become refugees from the civilized world. And we did for years when it was apparent that we're going to give Hamas the opportunity to turn into a civilized Islamist state. And they are not. They're barbarians. The Iranians are barbarians. And maximum pressure will be back, I hope. Brian Hook is leading the transition team at the State Department. And that, Brian Hook is a Iran hawk. And that doesn't mean going to war with them. It means cutting off their oil. It means snapback sanctions. And when crazy stuff is said at the United Nations, Elise Stefanik is going to stand up in the tradition of Jeane Kirkpatrick and Daniel Patrick Moynihan and speak for the West. The United States, of course, but for the West, for the idea of freedom, the idea of liberty, the idea of ongoing liberty and literacy expansions everywhere across the world, taking care of our allies and frightening our foes. Donald Trump's 2.0 transition is very different. And he's not going to get ambushed again. He was far too trusting of Comey, Brennan, and Clapper. They ambushed him at Trump Tower. The permanent government is not going to get anywhere near President Trump in his second administration. I cannot wait for the Attorney General position. Yesterday, Josh Gerstein of Politico said, oh my gosh, they're shuddering at DOJ. We know what this is going to be like. This is the resistance. And you know what? Leave now or be fired. Quit, get out, or be fired. Because Schedule A attorneys, all of them, every attorney at the Department of Justice is a Schedule A attorney. They can be moved. They can be fired. Anybody says anything out of line, if you are not at all with Donald Trump, just leave now. I worked at Justice in 1984 and 1985 for Attorney General William French Smith and Attorney General Edmund Meese. Not for long for Meese. And I did the Foreign Counterintelligence Special Assistant portfolio. And serious people are welcome. There are great career lawyers at Justice, but it's been politicized. And all of them have to be fired or moved. I mean, you can move a DOJ lawyer anywhere. You can send them to Kansas, and nothing wrong with Kansas. You can send them to Alaska, nothing wrong with Alaska. You can send them everywhere. But make a list, check it twice, transition team, and land like you're landing at Normandy at Justice, because that's the beating heart of the resistance. And whoever, if it is Marco Rubio, go in there with a blowtorch and take him out, because that's like a deep blue state. like Republican taking over governor of California or New York. So put on your walking boots and your lead-toed boots and get over there and start kicking. It's time for Donald Trump to actually bring peace through strength back to the United States. I'm Hugh Hewitt, very happy on this Tuesday morning. Stay tuned.